So let's audit this formula in cell B6. So we look at this formula here and we notice, this is a pretty normal lookup value. This is the tough part. It's very strange, not very common at all. Normally we would have the text in here of where we're looking, but we have indirect and a VLOOKUP to somewhere else, which is kind of odd. Here, this is pretty normal, a 2 for the column index and the false for exact match. So here's the text again in a cell. Let's just isolate to the part that is the difficult part. So we know the answer to this question. What makes this formula complex? It is the second parameter or second argument of the VLOOKUP. It's this part right here, the table array. That's what's making this difficult to read. The formula is not, multiple lines long. Some of them are very, very long. This one's only one line long, but it is a tricky formula to understand. So I would always say the first thing that we want to do is we want to isolate the formula. We want to take that part right in here and we want to put it down here and look at it and see what it's doing. So I'm going to do this little trick to unhide what the formula in there. So now we've taken this part right in there, the VLOOKUP. We have it in this cell. We see the result, and let's just go inside of here. Now we're looking for the value in cell A1, which is Sweden. We're looking here, data A6 to B9. So now this time it's easy compared to the formula up here. We're looking there, column index 2. The answer comes from column B because we have a 2 here. And range lookup is false, meaning exact match. So let's look at range A6 to B9. So we're looking for Sweden. If I click in here, we see where what it's referring to. Looking for Sweden in that range. Let's go take a look. So A6 to B9, right in there. So I'm just going to click a little button here off to the side of the screen. So we're looking for Sweden. In here, we find it, and our answer comes from column B, that exact text. So that text now goes back into our formula. We see it here. And then back here at the top, now we can go back in here and look at it, and we realize, oh, so we look for A1, all of this part, which we had down there, and what happens is this is actually returning sort of a dynamic range. So first we look for Sweden over here. We get this. This tells us to go over here. So it looks pretty cool, right? Very dynamic, quite interesting. But here's the thing. I could stop the video right now because now we know how this works. First determine which of these areas we're looking in. So if I go back here, I change Sweden to Mexico, come over here, Mexico, the answer is E6 to F10, which is this range, or we could change it to something else, right? It's one of these 4 areas. Once we get that, then we come back here, and this formula says, okay, well, now that I know which of the country areas to look in, look for B1 value, which is a number 1, look for it in here, and return the answer right there. So this is our answer. So we change it to something else just to quickly test it again. Let's say Canada. And so you're looking here for Canada. We get this value. It jumps over here. And we look for number 1. And we finally get hockey. Just to show it's working, let's just type in test. Go back to this sheet. And sure enough, it's working. We get the word test. Now, it works, right? So what can we say? But there's a couple of things with this that kind of bother me a little bit. It's a long formula. It's tricky to understand, and it's tedious. But the more important thing is that it's a non-dynamic, error-prone layout for a couple of reasons. Number 1, we have this hard-coded references. So if we insert rows or columns anywhere over in this area, then these will no longer be valid. This is just text typed in here, right? So this solution could get broken very, very easily. So how can we make it safer and more dynamic? So what can we do? So let's take this and just move it over here. We want to have a safer and a better way. So can we restructure the data somehow? So there is something that we could do. We could create named ranges for each of those different blocks of countries and favorite sports. So I actually went and did that before the video. And here we have the area called Mexico. Here we have United States, and all the way across. So let's just take the formula which I wrote. We'll just go up here, we'll paste this, and we'll get the formula text. and paste it up here as well. So now we see that our formula is a little bit simpler, a little bit shorter if we click in here. Sure, we still have the indirect, but now it just says, go back to here, take the value from cell A1, whatever we select in there, and that is actually a named range, as we know over here. Our name ranges are in formulas, name manager. So our names are listed in here with the block of data they correspond to. So that is now Canada. So back in here, the indirect just takes the name from cell A1, which is Canada, and directly goes in here and looks for a 1, which is in there, and our answer is test. So that works, right? It's a little bit easier to understand, but here's the thing. Do we really want to create a name range for all of these when there could be 20 or 30 or 100 or 200? That would be a lot of upkeep, right? A lot of maintenance to keep this thing going. So there's got to be a better way. So obviously I've thought of one, and that would just be the standard. Anyone who works with data for many years, you hear these terms, and this is one of the big terms. You want to normalize your data. So instead of having it like this, when all these little mini ranges, maybe it looks nice, but put it into an area like this to store it. Later on, you could always take it out and display it like this possibly. But to store your data, you want to normalize your data. Here we have the list of countries, rank, and we have the sport listed all like this. All right. Now, we could do something else as well. We want to create a table. Because in the end, we want to create a simple helper formula. We only have to know two things to get the favorite sport for the correct country. We have to know the country name, and we have to know the rank that we're looking for. In this case, rank number 1. So Mexico 1 is right there, football, soccer. So first, let's create the table. Insert, table, we click OK. Here's our nice table now. And over here, we're going to add that helper because our end goal is to create a very simple formula that anybody can understand. So I click helper. I'm just going to say equals Mexico and ampersand to put the two text things together in the rank. Press enter. I drag this down, and the table didn't automatically expand, I guess because I'm on the left-hand side here, but I can easily go click anywhere in the table, go up here to design, resize the table, and here I'm going to type in letter C and press OK. Now we see that the table has expanded to this range. So now all we have to do is look in here, make sure we have the correct country name and the rank number, and then our answer is over there. So now we can create a very simple VLOOKUP. So over here, we're just going to go like this, and we're going to say equals VLOOKUP. We're going to click on cell A1, which is Canada, and put the text together with the rank, which is here, put a comma. Our table now is, all we have to do is go in here and highlight this. And you notice how it says, it's going to give it a name. So it says table 4 right there. And then we put a comma. We say 4. Our answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, column 4 within that table range, comma, false, or we could put a 0. We press enter, and now we get the correct sport, number 1 sport. So let's test it out. If I were to say Mexico, we get football, soccer. If I were to say United States, let's say it's American football. I'm actually not sure. Sweden, we get testing. So let's go back here and change that. So where do we get Sweden and number 1 testing? Let's change this to football as well. Football, soccer, I guess it is. And there we go. It works.